William?
My name is William and I'm an addict.
Hey, William. How you doing?
I'm like real honored to be here. I started like stripping and taking the stuff off because a lot of times we can dress up the outside, but most times I've learned in this process it doesn't necessarily match my spiritual condition. I'm like real filled up today because first off, she asked me to share on 7 through 12. So I have to assume then that the fellowship is getting to a point where they finally started believing that William must be getting just a little bit better. That they don't want to just get William on 1 and 2 and 3. Now he can talk about 7 through 12. I'm really like filled up today because like we had took a moment on the last meeting, a moment of silence for a member of this fellowship, man, who just lost his father. And that brother is my sponsor. I need to say that like a lot of times what I struggle with, what happened was, what's been going on in my life is I've been having the opportunity to do a lot of things and go a lot of places, and they had asked me to come to Kentucky this weekend to talk about how it works. When I made a decision, and I'm finding out making big boy decisions around here, is that at some point you start making the little small decisions, the kind of stuff that used to be mountains, now they turn into molehills. You start realizing that the priority is not about talking about how it works, but about being about how it works. So I made a small, minute decision, and the small, minute decision was that they'll have another thing next year. What I'm coming to find out is that I need to be here for my sponsor. Because the steps that we're going to talk about today are not, look, we heard some stuff today, right? And what the guy had said, it was real heavy, real heavy. He said, right, he said, everything in this recovery process for us, and what I'll say is recovery process, but everything that we deal with is about life and about death. If you're not doing what you need to do in your recovery to improve on your status in life, then you're working on death. Death, as we know it, is returning to active addiction. Now, this guy got real deep, right? And he said, you know, it's a lot of times you might be asked to come do certain things, and like, I don't know if you're anything like me, but most of the time I'm late or like I just make it. But he said there'll be one appointment that we won't be late for, and that'll be the meeting with our high power. So now look, I'm like filled up, I'm getting this, and I'm like trying to hold on, and like I'm shedding tears, and like she'll talk about like, I don't know, I didn't come here with the ability to do that. So when I'm getting in touch with now, we gonna get with 7 through 12 is a process of improving my conditions so that I can meet my higher power on that final commitment. I'm talking about improving my spiritual condition. Now you can sit here and this will be like a spiritual assessment because you can sit here and watch who William is, so that's why I stripped a little bit, because like if I don't strip and bring who William is to the table, then I'll never get better. I've learned since being here that if I don't bring me to the table, I don't slight you, I slight me. So I bring who William is to the table. Sometimes it's sick and slimy William. I'm talking about after being here for a while, I'm still that sick and slimy ass guy sometimes. But then I learned to get the courage that even when I sit here, carry a Narcotics Anonymous message, talk about that there is hope, share the hope that I had with you, that I can show up the next day, raise my hand, and talk about the desperate condition that I found myself in as a result of not being able to practice the principles that I've talked about. We call it sharing clean and living fast. This is what this process is about. So, you know, like it's a lot of things going on. I'm telling you, like, I don't know about anybody else. Like, I'm from Camden, and I make a lot of meetings over here. I remember showing up in the meeting in Philadelphia and feeling like a nobody. I remember showing up over here, being consumed in the atmosphere, in the environment, thinking that my 6 months was all that, and having 20 people raise their hand with 6 months and realizing that I was just one of the crowd. I remember showing up over here, and I used to have this opinion. I used to say, you know, over Philly, they kind of sit back and cross their arms and wait for you to make some type of mistake, so you better come over here correct. I'm talking about a reputation that wasn't warranted, because all that I've done in meeting people here was learn that the people over here are just as loving and caring as anywhere else I've been. And that if I have the ability to come over here and free myself, because you know what? It's becoming attractive again in this fellowship to tell the truth. It's becoming attractive again. I'm not talking about the kind of stuff you talking about the end of the road in the alleyway with the needle out your neck and talking about that's the only place that you can draw your source of encouragement and strength from. I'm talking about when you live in drama clean. I'm talking about when you live in a certain kind of way and you still feel like you wondering what's going on, why are the same people running from me that was running from me at the end of the road. I'm talking about not being able to change with your ideas and your, we talk about like you can just think your way into a better way of acting. That's not true. You can come in here and look, I would like to wear suits and ties. I would like to be presented to society in that manner, but if I don't get the practice that I need, I'll never go there. I'll still have my hat flipped on backwards with my pants hanging halfway off my ass and then wonder why I'm not accepted in society. So I'm talking about a change here. I'm talking about a change. Now, we done been through the initial desperation of 1, 2, and 3, because I done met God. God done did some cleansing and releasing stuff. He done cleaned me up. He's like starting to make me into this guy that he wants me to be. He's starting to get me to a point where he can present me to the world, not just the fellowship to the world, because it says sharing with others the NA way. So now some work is going on, and I have the willingness to do that. Now I'm arriving at a different state, and what I learned with step 7 was as much as you love me, as much as you'll be willing to maybe jump in front of that bullet, like carry my pain, the reality of it was the only thing that could change me is God. I've learned that you might want to lift the obsession, act out on a defect, but that you can't do that. You can make me aware of it, but the only one that can remove that defect is God. Now I'm getting in touch with humility. Now the only humility I know of at that point was humility through pain, because you were a very humble person when you backed in the corner. Humility is not something you practice when you back in the corner. Humility is a voluntary state that you put yourself in when you know that you're going to do the right thing for the right reason, not just because you have no choice. That's what humility is. Humility, it talks a whole lot about humility, and what I found about humility, and the reality of it was I got to take a look at me earlier on in the steps of what I'm really in touch with was for a long time being clean for while I still was running. I'm not talking about running from girl to girl and guy to guy. Yeah, the bag changes, we know that. The bag done changed now. They got soft legs and a mini skirt. I'm talking about using. I'm talking about still running on the same juice y'all gave me on about the only requirement is the desire to stop using. I'm talking about using with time clean, with principles, awareness of principles in my life, even when I can't live them. So I'm running. I'm running in all my thoughts, see, because being this man, I'm taught as a man, I'm supposed to figure out and be a problem solver. I'm supposed to be a guy that should be able to figure out whatever I need to do to get over, around, or under a wall, because I'm always running into walls in this process. So I run into a wall, and I'm going there, some smart addict with some time clean principle practicing guy tells me, well, maybe, right? Like if you turn around and look at what it is that you're running from, you might just get better. And I finally get the kind of courage that it takes to turn around, take a look at what I'm running from, and there's a mirror there because I'm running from me. You expect to get into these healthy, dynamic relationships, and I don't see it happening as long as you're afraid of who you are. Humility is accepting who you are. If you can't accept who and what you are, you'll never be able to be any good to anybody else. If you still can't cry enough to free yourself, what good are you to anybody? I'm talking about dropping the wall. I'm talking about it gets to a point, man, where you can be so consumed with self-hatred that you'll hate everything around you. You can come in here kicking that generic over-the-counter I love you stuff, but the reality of it is we see who you are by how you treat yourself. That's where I'm at. So I finally take a look at me. I get the 7 to do that. I get humility because humility is accepting who and what you are. That's humility. Humility is not now, and I'm not talking about the humility kick me to the curb and I'm the floor mat at the door. I'm talking about accepting who and what I am, accepting my place in the world, in society, and in this fellowship, and then working towards becoming better than the individual that bought here. It's no longer about comparing me to you, it's about comparing me to the guy, the same sick, slimy guy that I see in the mirror after being here for a while. I'm talking about the guy that ain't just kicking it with newcomers, but kicking it with their old timers and their sponsees and the jokers that ain't in the fellowship, winking at your girl that's sitting next to you, that having coffee with you after the meeting. I'm talking about that guy. Still going around people pleasing, trying to be down with everybody's clique, and still ain't all right with the clique you got with you and got. You know, it gets to be a great thing to be respected around here. It gets to be a great thing, man, when somebody can reach out to you and ask you for help in a situation that you cried through just last week, and you finally realize that you didn't go through that for you, it was for them. It finally gets to be a great thing when you get woke up in the middle of the night for somebody in desperation calling you for help, even though they kicked it about you in the back of the room. Humility is still giving what is needed and what is deserved, because I'm finding out, right, don't just kick that honesty to them, tell the truth. And humility is accepting your truth even when it's in conflict with my honesty. So that's what's going on with Wayne. I don't know, I just came to strip today. I never got opportunity. I'm telling you, I'm grateful to be here. You know what I mean? You know, recovery do happen over the water. You know what I mean? As a result of being a part of this great region, because we're a part of. I need to stop coming over here acting like I'm visiting, I'm home.
Talk about it.
Yes. We're talking about humility now. So process is going on. I never had it 7 through 12. I want to break it down like I want to, put these two together. Look, man, that's what they asked me to do. Either do it, or if you can't do it, say no. That's humility. So I'm going to do what they asked me to do. So we're going to move on. Now, the last time, right, we're going to talk about 8, and we're going to talk about a process of making a list. Because 8 and 9, some stuff is happening, and when you're brand new, see, I remember being brand new and wanting to go apologize to everybody. You ever wake up with a good idea? A great idea. What you gonna do, William? I got a great idea. I need to just go say, I'm sorry. Then people see, I remember we used to use it, people used to say, I'm sorry, I'm like, yeah, you ain't sorry. I'm like, well, I ain't sorry, I apologize. We change the word, that's gonna change the behavior. You can call it sick, slimy, you can call it, look, I'm talking about a process of change when I become, somebody that used to be in the sicker than most category to the sicker than others. I'm not talking about just well, I'm talking about just getting a little bit better. Appreciating the little steps that happen in my life. Appreciating a little bit of guys that I can accept today that I couldn't accept yesterday. So I make this list. Now some stuff is coming up because when I made this list, and I need to share it like this because if you're brand new, I don't need to talk over your head because that's where it'll go over your head. So I need to say when I made this list, I was real specific. I had a guide, a sponsor that said, when you make this list, you need to put down exactly what you do. It's called the exact nature. So I wrote down exactly what I did to these people because I didn't just need all these faint names, you know what I mean, to throw on there, some generic stuff. I just I needed to put exactly what it was, what I had done, because if I expect to get better with a situation, I need to first identify it. The first step told me that. Identify your problem. So I started looking at that, and when I got in touch with it after I made the list, and some people, you can kick it like you want, oh, well, if you made the list, you willing. Look, I made the list, I became willing. I wasn't that willing when I made the list because I was desperate a little bit, and something happened when you open up that barrel in 5 and 6 and things like that, where you going crazy, you ready to do something. I'm talking about 7 step was a real relief for me, and then when I got to 8, I was willing to do something. So I made this list. And what I got in touch with was, I still wanted to blame my uncle for molesting me. I still wanted to blame him for molesting me, and I wanted to punish my mother and my father for not being there to save me. But what I got in touch with through humility of the 7th step, because you'll know how many principles you're practicing from the previous steps when you're addressed with a new step. How much humility you got when you get to 8 will be when you start understanding that the people that you even think harmed you, that you left off the list, only gave you the best that they had. Now when I can accept that reality, then I started getting better with, okay, if I can learn to forgive him just like God forgave me, then better yet, I can start getting better with the fact that I molested people that were younger than me and my family with alert behavior. Now I can start getting better with that process. Then the list grows. The list didn't get bigger because it was new people. The list got bigger because I just started accepting that I had done harm in areas that I couldn't cop to earlier. We're talking about making a list now and then becoming willing. So I started getting better with some stuff. I'm like, my uncle only gave me with it the best that he had. I found out that he was on his way to school and then got raped. I found out that there was a reason why when we looked at the yearbook and me and my other cousins was looking at all the pretty girls, he was talking about that big guy on the football team. I started to learn to accept who and what he was. I started getting better with the first step resentments and things that I still had that I claim to be better with because I'm writing on higher steps. I'm talking about more is being revealed. I'm talking about now I'm learning how to get better. I'm talking about I'm becoming willing now. I'm not actually going and apologizing because what I've learned in this step is the preparation. All I need to do is develop the willingness it takes to do what I need to do further on. And then when we get to 9, then after following God in the proper way to the amends, they'll always be at the right on time. They'll always be right on time. I know I got a friend, and he came and he said, well, I got a couple days clean now. I want to pay IRS. I want to, look, man, I got a couple days clean, man. Soon as you become responsible, I'm going to, pay back the school loan. I'm going to face them debtors right to their face and tell them I'm ready. I'm a responsible, productive member of society. And I said, wait till you get there. But if you really want to do it, go ahead and do it, because I'm not going to stop you from getting what you got coming when you volunteer for it. So what happened is he went there. Once he opened up the door, all of it started coming. I'm talking about when you go there and there's not time, they'll all start coming. I'm talking about, you owe 10 people, but you're going to step up to 1. The one that you owe the least amount of money. The kind of shit that'll clear your conscience. But now you done open the door and all of them found out where you live at. You ain't prepared and you ain't ready because some guy got something in store for you. Like if you would have went through the process, God might have had in store for you earlier on. He might have sent you back to school and put you in a better position to take care of these debts, but you're going to do it on your self-will, then get mad at us for not saving you after you get camouflage. An avalanche that came down on you. You in the meeting crying about pain that you volunteered for. Look, sometimes, right, I'm still in touch with the fact that sometimes when I go back to something and it's not as painful, I think that I got the relief that I asked for, and what I'm learning is that my tolerance for pain has grew. We talking about a freedom like something is insane. When you get freedom and relief from the God you understand, then you step back and you learn that the only way you're going to get back out of that situation is with a tear. That's where it's at. So now I'm getting the 8 and I'm following God into these amends and I'm doing what I got to do. And what happened was I now live with the same grandmother who I stole everything from. I live right now with the woman who I used to steal from all high places. Nobody else lived there. And I started looking all through her spot, and I finally found this high place. I used to take all the money, because every time they got paid, they put all the money there. I used to take just enough that I needed. Just enough to go half with somebody. Just a little bit. But it always ended up being all of it. It always ended up being all of it. So one time I go in this secret hiding place that was under the bed, behind the 2 pair of leather shoes, and I pull that spot out, and I open it up, and there's a note there saying, "We hate you for doing this to us." Being a good addict that I am, I closed it back up. I put it right back, because I always put it right back like I found it, and I walked around the house acting as if I had nothing to do with it, but shame and guilt had consumed me at this point. I felt so ashamed walking around her house with a front. Like I don't know what happened. And then asked for $5 to get a haircut. Because I'm not mature and responsible. I need help. You know what I mean? That hurt. I still don't know a lot of times what I think is the greatest idea of apologizing and making the proper amends to somebody most times is just not enough. God has some more in store for me. If I just have the patience and tolerance that it takes to wait for him to take me there, I'll have all that I need. I didn't like study for these steps when she asked me to share. When she asked me to share, God had already prepared me. He got a plan. You ain't supposed to be in Kentucky, William. You know, it's beyond your means. Like, it's real nice to go wherever this fellowship call you, but sometimes it ain't where you supposed to be. Where's the humility at? Where's the courage that it takes, that spiritual courage we talked about? Now we talking about, are you willing to go all the way now? Because now you're going to arrive, and now you're ready to make amends. You're being presented with the proper opportunities to make these amends, and now you're starting to get freedom because you're not consumed with the same guilt you walked around in, still avoiding people, still crossing the street when you see them coming down the street. Like they got a pit bull or something with them. You still ashamed because of some slimy shit you done did, an active addiction, man. Now it's time to pay up. Now it's time to do something different. It talks about in the literature, if you breaking windows, don't come knocking on my door talking about how sorry you are to break my window and then play baseball on the front of my lawn the next day. Do something different. Change your behavior. Don't kick that shit to me about how successful you are because you just didn't use it. If all you want to do is don't use the drug, man, then something is going on in your recovery. It says once we are willing to change our old ways of thinking, attitudes, behavior, and then we're having successful days because there takes a willingness. There's some willingness that goes on there. It ain't about just kicking it. We've been kicking it before we got here. We used to kick it sitting around the table. We used to kick it to the dude even when they put us in line. Humble as hell. Humility through pain, sitting in line. You got humility now, but you really ain't got no choice because you're sick and you got to be there. That ain't humility. You know what I mean? So like now I'm doing what I need to do, man, and I'm like looking in the mirror saying like something's happening here. Man, I'm like becoming somebody that could be respected around here. I'm like becoming somebody, not this front spiritual ass guy that like comes and kicking with a couple years clear. I'm not talking about that guy. I'm talking about a guy who stays real. You know, if you can't accept who and what you are, then you'll come here with a mask still. The NA mask. It's all good. Recovery is great. God is good all the time. Running on a cliche. It's one cliche I run on, man. It pretty much is the root of all my program. It says don't pick it up and you won't get high. Don't pick that one drug up. Don't pick up that phone. Don't like pick up that one number. You know you're going to act out on your slimy ass behavior. You know it's been arrested, but you can pull it up. It's only been arrested. You can parole it at any time. That's right. Don't pick that one hot dog up. You know when you eat that hot dog, you'll have 3 before you remember what one tasted like. We got a fixed idea thing. It's called obsession and compulsion. I used to have a guy in my life told me, you can look at the menu, just don't order. And I used to believe that as a newcomer, and I started getting in touch with it. But once I looked at the menu, I could taste it already. Yeah. I'm talking about I could taste it. I'm talking about I know it's bad for me before I looked at it. But I want to say it's not a drug, so I'm going to look anyway. I'm not using the drug as a successful day. I'm telling you, I get caught up on a fixed idea. I don't know what works for you. Don't pick it up and you won't get high. Using in any form of substance gets me high. Any form of using gets me high. We talking about 7 through 12. We talking about it ain't a drug now. We've been here for a while now. We talking about don't pick it up, you won't get high. We talking about telling that like extra girl on the side you can't do this because you got one at home. It's not the right thing to do. I know it's not the right thing to do. But I know once I get caught up in a grip, I can't stop. I remember telling my friends, I had like 3 girlfriends at the time, and I was telling them how like desperate I was, and they kicked in the best information they had to me, at least you clean. I suffered for a year from that shit. Sometimes if you ain't got the best information, you give it your humility in your own step and leave me the fuck alone because I'm tired of suffering. When I ask for help, I need it. And if you ain't got it and you can't tell me who to get it from, then just listen to my ass. Let me keep talking about it in every meeting I need to talk about it until somebody can step up with the courage to accept the reality that they are that same guy and they got better or woman. Because I got a lot of my help from the women. I'm not one of them guys that cut my recovery in half by gender. You can do that shit. You can kick that cliche all the fuck you want. I ain't there. Kick it. All that you want to do, you can say that. And the reality of it is, I've gotten a lot of my help from this fellowship, and this fellowship is inclusive of everybody in it. So like that's what's happening. So I'm moving on and I'm growing. Now I'm like finally got the courage now after facing everybody else. I start getting the courage to face me. And when I got in touch with it, I don't have to keep going back and forth. I practice 10. 4 is a result of letting stuff build up.
Yeah.
4 is a result of like being slimy for a year and not addressing it. 10 happens when I get better by coming in here stripping on a daily basis. I get rid of my good ideas. I start getting humble, man, and you know, if you don't get humble, it's true, you will be humiliated. So I start coming in here and I start taking a look at me on a daily basis. I started looking beneath, like the fact that like when my wife left, how I kept calling her and how like for like months all I could do was write her name on the list. You know, the generic, you know, the suds. You know, that stuff. I'm not getting no relief. Because I'm not addressing it. I still don't know how to let go with any other way but with claw marks. So I'm looking at it. I'm starting to face me for real now. I'm saying I got humility. I'm saying I'm all right with who I am, but I still don't want to address it because what happens, I'm one of them guys, if I had the intention on acting out slimy, I don't pray first. I pray afterwards and say, can you please forgive me? I do that. I ain't gonna look. I really want to like say like it's not like that for me, and I'm one of them guys that never forget to pray. I really would like to kick that, but that's not reality for me. I'm not knocking you if you're there. I'm saying that when I'm ready to act up and I'm ready to act slimy, I can't take a look at me on a daily basis. I want to act up first and then look at it. That's what the 10 steps shows me, that like I'll get there and I'll sit in the house and I might have the fixed idea to masturbate, so I won't pray. I'll masturbate first, I'll put the nastiest movie I got on, then I'll put the movie away, and then I'll say, oh God, I'm sorry. I'm talking about little stuff. You know what I mean? That's what happens. So in order, I started looking at me, and what happens is I got into that process, and I started taking a deeper look and finding out what it is that God had in store for me, and I had to learn how to pray. I had to learn how to get this contact with this loving and caring God that you kicked it about and I kicked it about, even though I didn't know him. Now I'm trying to get in a more intense reality. What's really you have in store for me, God? Can I accept whatever it is for me? Can I still grab on and hold on with a vice grip to the same humility you gave me earlier and accept whatever it is you got in store for me and be all right with it? You know, like the outcome of whether or not you get the job or not.
Yeah.
You know, like I like to keep it with the simple stuff. You know, that's the stuff we face every day. And I started praying, and what happened was things started happening for me within this fellowship, and people was talking about it, and I started believing that maybe it wasn't what he had in store for me, but I was still getting a call. So then I started getting in touch with, for me, for myself, if I'm so caught up and consumed with what your blessing, your gift is, I can't cherish mine. I found out through the 11 that the grass is only greener on the other side because you're not taking care of the grass in your own yard. If you can like cut your own grass and fertilize it, you'll have just as greener grasses next door. The reality of it is, next door could be brown. If I don't look over the fence, I'll never know. This is a result of prayer. This is a result of receiving answers from God directly, and most times through you people. So now I'm like going to move on. It talks about now after having had. What happens after having had? This is when you start practicing what you've been kicking for the first 11. This is like when you become the guy that don't scream respect across the room because you got the humility of the first step. You can sit there and say, it's okay, go wherever you want to go. I can get mine. I have a purpose. I have a focus. I have an aim. I'm on a right track, and I'm going to sit here and listen to what God got for me, and it don't matter what you say.
Yeah.
This is what happens for 12. This is when we become what it is that we talk about. This is when we become all that just the glimpse. They said just a glimpse. of what God has in store for us, you start living it, and before you realize that you in it. Either you in God's grace or you in the drama. Being in the drama means you done reverted to some old behaviors that you probably already got better with, because the reality of it is once you're aware, it's yours anyway. So that's what happened. You know, I don't know, I just want to keep it real simple, man. You know, I'm on a time frame, man, and I respect, wherever I go, and she said stop cussing, so I stopped cussing. Thank you. Because I didn't know. You know, but I respect groups, and I respect this fellowship. I have a great deal of respect for this way of life. And the proof that I have a great deal of respect for this way of life is that I can apply to this way of life. That's what it's about. That's how you display what it is that you've learned and what you've kicked. Until that day comes, it's okay, because the reality of it is we know that everybody comes in here at different levels, and some of us are sick and slimy most of the days, and some of us are still in the sicker than most category. We accept and love you because we know that we were once there in that same desperate state, and that when we don't practice the principles that we've kicked, we'll go back to there. So I'm just being real vigilant and trying not to be like the guy that I brought in the room to y'all in the first place. Even though my personality is still fractured on a lot of days, it's getting better, it's being mended. You know what I mean? I'm real grateful for that. You know, so look, this the piece, right, that I close with. It's a real simple hit, and what it is allow me to know that when I came here self-centered. This gives me an opportunity to get my self-centered self out the way, and the statement is simply this. It says that if you met William today and you forget him, you've lost nothing. But if you meet the God you understand today, and you forget him, you've lost everything. Thanks for letting me share.